Therapists of Reddit, what was your "I need a minute" moment? More of a funny story, but I arrived at a client's house for a session. I was doing in-home therapy for adolescents at the time. With a 13-year-old kid. He was a little late getting home from school, so he wasn't there yet. His mother has me sit down to wait for him and says that while he's not home she wanted to ask me something. I'm assuming it's about her son since that's why I'm there. She proceeds to ask me why I think her boyfriend won't perform oral sex on her and if I have any suggestions to change that. Really didn't see that one coming. I usually need a breather after working with my victims of sexual assault. The pain and tears in my room are always so heavy and raw. Edit to add. As an intern, I saw a client for a few weeks. Extremely suicidal. Stopped coming out of the blue. Literally my first client ever. Wife came to be seen as a patient a few weeks later and the receptionist hurried back and warned me. Her husband, my client, had died by suicide and now she wanted to be seen. Her description of the event and how her daughters found out was absolutely horrific. It was a lot to take in as a new therapist. Not a therapist but volunteered on a suicide hotline for a number of years. Took a call from a young woman who was hysterical on the phone. Was difficult to make out what she was saying amongst her sobs, but I could make out she was outside. I asked her where she was and she replied that she was on the top floor of a multi-story car park and was contemplating jumping off. I talked with her, tried to calm her. Meanwhile I was shaking like a leaf. But to no avail. She jumped and the line went dead. It was in the local paper not soon after and it stayed with me for years. First internship on my path to counselor and I was working in funeral home under the grief counselor there. Grief and trauma is my focus. We were taught to be strong and supportive to those grieving, of course, and if we needed to cry, go in the back or to the bathroom. I escorted an elderly lady to view her husband before the service. I helped sit her in the chair in front of the casket and was standing behind her when she stood up and laid on the casket, bawling her eyes out, declaring how much she loved him, missed him, and begging him not to leave her. Come back. That totally destroyed me. I immediately started crying behind her. She stood up and I sucked it up to help her walk back into the hall to start greeting guests. I thought I had did a good job collecting myself. But my mentor took one look at me and softly said, "Go to the back room." Which I did. I completely lost it for a few minutes. Cleaned up and went back to help with the service. I definitely needed that minute. Once had a client with a child who did nothing but scream at the parent for about 20 to 30 minutes straight. As soon as they left, I cried for 20 minutes due to how emotionally charged the words accusations. I tried to diffuse it at times, but it continued to rebound quickly. When I was a kid, I went to therapy. I asked my therapist if she felt like I deserved what happened to me. She stepped out of the room. Came back in a few minutes later, clearly having had cried. She then said, "No, you did not deserve it." I'll never forget it. I felt terribly sorry for upsetting her. But now I better understand. I hope she is well. You're in hell. What's on TV? Commercials and nothing else. That commercial with Sarah McLachlan music and the neglected and abused and abandoned animals. Staged TikTok videos. A TV show about a guy trying to connect to the internet through a dial-up modem. But the connection never happens and you just constantly hear the dial-up tones and noises. Probably has a really shitty, but catchy tune as well that gets stuck in your head as Satan takes you to the fire pits. The Cars 4 Kids commercial on a constant loop. Wendy Williams and Dr. Oz. What popular beliefs about your country just isn't true? Yes, we are from South America, and no, we don't speak Spanish. That some high percentage of us believe in elves. Welsh people shag sheep. Temptation is there, but the static shock wouldn't be worth it. Iceland was not named as part of some conspiracy to keep folks away from a good thing. The name comes from the fact that early settlers arrived during summer and then suffered horrible losses of livestock and people once winter hit and icebergs were seen filling the fjords. It was more of a warning than anything that this place sucked. Greenland, on the other hand, was probably named as such to make it sound more hospitable. No, we don't speak Spanish. Yes, we'll probably understand you when you speak Spanish to us, but we'll probably think you're an asshole. No, we don't want to join up with Spain. We like our distance. Kenyans are all long-distance runners. Live in huts. Speak no English. And have pet wild animals. So here goes. The long-distance guys are mainly from one tribe called the Kalenjin that's about 15% of the population. Next. Kenya is still a developing nation with a lot of poverty. But there's a lot of modern architecture. Next. The country is rated 18 out of 100 on the English Proficiency Index. And lastly, you can apply for a special, and rarely granted, permit for your bobcat named Babu. But keeping wildlife is not at all common. And the Kenya Wildlife Service will conduct regular visits to ensure Babu isn't being kept in Meowschwitz-like conditions. What was your, wow, it's such a small world, experience? Serious. Attention. Serious. Tag notice. Jokes, puns, and off-topic comments are not permitted. https www.reddit.com/r/askreddit/wiki/index-wiki_rule_6- in any comment, parent or child, parent comments that aren't from the target group will be removed, along with their child replies. Report comments that violate these rules. Posts that have few relevant answers within the first hour. And posts that are not appropriate for the serious tag will be removed. Consider doing an AMA request instead. Thanks for your cooperation and enjoy the discussion. I am a bot, and this action was performed automatically. Please contact the moderators of this subreddit. Message, compose to =r@AskReddit if you have any questions or concerns. When I was 18, I traveled from Boston to Colorado for a ski vacation with my family. During lunch in a mid-mountain lodge, I saw a girl that I just felt drawn to. But I didn't have the confidence to approach. After lunch, I went to put my snowboard on and she walked right up to me because her skis were right next to my board. I struck up conversation with her and we ended up sharing a ski lift. We talked the whole way up. She was visiting her brother, a dentist in Denver, for the week. We made small talk, and then went our separate ways. We never exchanged names, but I couldn't stop thinking about her. About 2 weeks later, my mother mentioned she had spoken to an old friend who had been our neighbor until I was about 4. Anyway, she mentioned her daughter, who I had spent countless days with starting as a toddler but who now lives in New Jersey, had just been in Colorado, visiting her brother, a dentist, in Denver. Then my mother finds an old photo album and finds a picture of us together around age 4. And it was definitely her. I ended up getting her number and we connected, but it never went anywhere because long distance. I ran into my aunt and uncle at a random truck stop in the middle of Pennsylvania. The odds of that happening were crazy low. I'm from Indiana and they live in Arizona. My grandmother had 2 twins. She was told one died. In reality, while she was loopy from the medication or whatever. Events aren't very clear. Her family had her sign the rights of one of the twins away because they had sold him without her knowledge. Fast forward many years. They were the oldest of my grandmother's kids. And my mom is taking me to school. And I see my uncle in a weird car go speeding past me. Being 4 or 5, Tried to get his attention. And my mom explained that wasn't my uncle but his twin. The weird thing is though, they were born in CA. And we had moved to southern Oklahoma, northern Texas by that point. I moved from Al to CA and started working at a Best Buy. Found out the guy working at the tech bench, the other side of customer service, where I worked, was also from Al, and we discovered we were from the same town. Went to the same college and had the same major. Later that day it struck me that he sat right beside me in one of my classes. 5 years later I'm living back in Al, and the neighbor that just moved in next door comes to introduce himself. Same damn guy. My parents when I was young owned an obnoxious green panel van that my father converted to a mini RV camper. We often drove 2,500 kilometers to visit my dad's family for the summer. We lived in Canada and the shortest route was through the northern US. Plus less chances of running out of gas because there were just far more people and cities along the way. On the way home from visiting for the summer, we stopped at a mall to shop a bit and to grab a bite to eat. When we came out, there was a note taped to the windshield that said, "Hey. Last name. Family. Hope you're having fun shopping in the US." Quote. We never figured out who left the note. It's been about 40 years now. Ha. Subscribe, my brothers.